Have you ever noticed how the moment someone stands out, they become a target? Not because they did something wrong or because they hurt anyone, but simply because they are different. And that raises a deeper question about why this happens and why some people feel the need to criticize, mock, or even attack those who don't fit the mold. And more importantly, what that behavior really says about them. Because the truth most people won't tell you is that it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with what's happening inside them. Think about this carefully, because every time someone rises above the average, someone else feels threatened, not in a physical sense, but on a psychological level. Because difference exposes something uncomfortable and creates contrast. And that contrast reveals insecurity in a way that most people are not ready to face or admit. Imagine a situation where you're in a room and everyone thinks the same way, dresses the same way, and behaves the same way. Where everything feels safe, predictable, and free of tension. But then, suddenly, someone walks in who thinks differently, speaks with confidence, and carries themselves as if they don't need validation. And in that exact moment, the entire atmosphere shifts, and people begin to feel uneasy without even understanding why. That discomfort happens because that person breaks the illusion that everyone has been unconsciously maintaining, showing that there is another way to exist. And that realization becomes dangerous to insecure minds. Because insecurity thrives on sameness and depends on comparison to survive. And when someone refuses to participate in that silent competition, it creates an internal conflict that most people don't know how to process. What makes this even more interesting is that insecure people don't consciously think that they feel threatened, but instead, they translate that feeling into criticism, mockery, and rejection, using phrases like, "Who do they think they are?" or "They're weird," or "They're trying too hard," when in reality, what they are expressing is the discomfort of being forced to question themselves. That discomfort comes from a deeper place, because insecurity is built on doubt, including doubt about one's own worth, doubt about identity, and doubt about being enough. So when someone shows up as their full and unapologetic self, it forces a comparison that most people are not prepared to win internally. And instead of choosing to improve, they choose to attack. This attack is not always physical, but often social, emotional, and psychological, where they attempt to bring the other person down in order to restore a sense of balance. Because if everyone remains the same, then no one has to confront feelings of inferiority or inadequacy. Now, if you reflect on your own life, you may realize that you have been judged for being different, whether it was because of your goals, your mindset, or your energy. And instead of receiving curiosity or support, you were met with resistance and criticism. And that was not a random occurrence, but a predictable reaction to difference triggering insecurity. There is another layer that most people overlook, which is that insecure individuals are not only threatened by difference, but also by potential. Because when they see someone doing something bold, authentic, or aligned with something they secretly wish they could do, it creates a mirror that reflects a painful truth. That mirror reveals the gap between who they are and who they could become, and that gap generates discomfort. So instead of trying to close that gap through growth, they attack the reflection itself, attempting to discredit, minimize, or destroy it, so they can avoid confronting their own limitations. If they can convince themselves that the other person is flawed, then they no longer feel the need to change. And this becomes a psychological defense mechanism, a shield that protects their current identity while preventing growth. The irony in all of this is that the more someone attacks difference, the more they reveal their own insecurity. Because confident and secure individuals do not feel the need to tear others down, as they are not operating from a place of comparison or threat. Secure people are not threatened by uniqueness, but instead they are inspired by it. And even if they don't fully understand it, they do not try to destroy it, which raises an important question about the kind of environment you are surrounded by, and whether the people around you attack difference or embrace it. Your environment plays a powerful role in shaping your behavior, because if you are constantly exposed to insecure minds, you may begin to shrink yourself, not out of desire, but because it feels safer and more accepted. And that is how potential slowly disappears, not through failure, but through conformity. Insecurity often leads to aggression because it is unstable and relies on external validation to maintain itself, requiring approval, agreement, and reinforcement. So when someone challenges that structure, even unintentionally, it feels like a threat to identity. And identity is something people will protect at all costs. People will defend their identity even if it means hurting others, rejecting growth, or remaining stuck, because changing requires accountability, self-awareness, and discomfort. While attacking is easy and provides instant relief and a temporary sense of control without any responsibility. This is why most people choose the easier path. And as a result, difference becomes a target, because it forces a decision between staying the same or evolving, and not everyone is ready to face that choice. However, being attacked for being different is not a weakness, but a signal that you are stepping outside the average, creating contrast, and triggering something real in others. And that is a powerful position to be in, because average goes unnoticed while difference stands out and disrupts. Instead of asking why people are attacking you, it is more useful to ask what you represent that makes them uncomfortable, because the answer to that question reveals your edge, your power, and your uniqueness, which are the very qualities most people are afraid to embrace. When it comes to responding, reacting emotionally only fuels the cycle and gives insecure individuals validation, attention, and control. So the most effective approach is awareness, recognizing the pattern and refusing to engage in it. You do not need to defend yourself to people who do not understand you, nor do you need to shrink to make others comfortable, because seeking validation from insecure individuals gives them control over your identity, which can be harmful. Instead, staying grounded, focused, and authentic leads to a long-term shift where even those who once criticized you begin to observe you with curiosity, because consistency builds respect over time. Even in insecure minds, although they may never openly admit it, they notice your consistency, and eventually some may change, not because you convinced them through argument, but because you demonstrated another way of being without needing to explain it. This is real influence, which is not about forcing or arguing, but about embodying a different standard. And when you think about the people you admire, it becomes clear that they were not always accepted, but were often misunderstood first. Anyone who breaks away from the norm faces resistance, as it is part of the process and the cost of individuality. But it is also the path to making an impact, because meaningful change cannot happen without standing apart from the majority. The next time you feel judged, attacked, or misunderstood, it is important to pause, observe, and recognize that the situation is not about you personally, but about what you represent, which is possibility. Possibility can be uncomfortable for people who feel stuck, so they attack it not because it is wrong, but because it is real. And in the end, you are faced with a choice between dimming your light to avoid criticism or embracing who you are fully and accepting that not everyone will approve. While not everyone will like it, the people who truly matter will respect it, connect with it, and be inspired by it, because authenticity naturally attracts the right people while pushing away those who do not align with it. There is no need to fear being different, but there is a real risk in becoming invisible or living a life shaped by other people's insecurities instead of your own truth, because the goal is not to fit in, but to become someone who no longer needs to. When you reach that point, everything begins to change, including your confidence, your relationships, and your opportunities, because you are no longer reacting to the world, but actively creating your place within it. This level of self-direction is something insecure individuals struggle to understand, even though deep down they wish they could experience it themselves. Which is why the next time you feel judged or misunderstood, you should remember that you are not the problem, but the disruption. And disruption is where growth begins, even if it makes others uncomfortable along the way.